Iranian American appeals and Nepal ship journeying from Ukraine to Turkey has Rebecca. Monday's incident involving a Palau flagged vessel called the MKK-1 led to no damage. Freighter, the Turkish Coast Guard authorities said. Television footage showed the bow of the ship carrying the Yuri between the second and third bridges over the bus. Earlier reported on the weekend that the ship was traveling from Fivdeni near Odessa, Ukraine, to the Turkish Mediterranean port of Mersin. The Istanbul governor 4:30 GMT due to a rudder failure. Since July, Ukrainian grain has been exported via the Black Sea and the Bosphorus Strait. The deal ended a month-long significant straits in the world, linking the Black Sea and ships from Russia and Ukraine to the Dardanelles Strait, through which ships enter the Mediterranean Sea. The incident is not the first time the Bosphorus has been closed to shipping. In September, the Lady Zema carrying grain from Ukraine ran aground, causing the strait closed temporarily. Last week, a cargo vessel that ran aground in Egypt's Suez Canal was refloated. The MV Glory ran aground. Nearly 60,000 people have died of COVID in China since the country instantly abandoned its tight zero-COVID policy in December. A medical official from the National Health Commission, NHC, said, according to a report from Beijing on Saturday. Jahu, head of the NHC, on January 12th. Of those deaths, 5,503 came from respiratory failure caused by COVID infections, and 54,435 came from respiratory failure caused by COVID infections, and cardiovascular diseases. China has formally listed only those COVID patients who succumbed with respiratory failure as having died of COVID. In the month after December 8th, China reported only 37 deaths from local COVID cases, according to figures released on the Chinese Center for Disease Control and Prevention, CDC, website, even as the outbreak and the United States have accused China of underrepresenting the severity of its present outbreak, while high global health officials have also urged on Saturday, WHO Director General Dr. Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus spoke to Chinese Health Minister Mao Zedong about the surge. Chinese officials shared information including the latest numbers on outpatient clinics, hospitalization. The health organization also requested a more detailed breakdown of the data by province over time and asked the Chinese government to continue to share further sequences of the coronavirus with open access databases. Fever clinical visits and COVID hospitalization. NHC fever clinic visits both in cities and rural areas have been decreasing since the peak, when over 2.86 million people visited them on December 23, 2022. Appealed to United States President Joe Biden to bring him home. On Monday, Siamak Namazi made the plea in a letter to Biden on the 7th anniversary of the release of the 2015 Iran nuclear deal. Namazi was arrested in October 2015 on charges of trying to overthrow the state. Accusations Namazi denies. His father, who traveled to Iran in 2016 out of control, was barred from traveling. He was finally permitted to leave Iran in October for medical treatment. Namazi said in his letter he will be on a hunger strike for 7 days, asking Biden to spend 1 minute a day for the next week thinking about the suffering of U.S. citizens detained in Iran. They include environmentalist Murad Tabas, 67, who also asked for comment, said the government was committed to securing Namazi's freedom. Iran's government generally refuses to acknowledge dual citizenship and on Saturday announced the execution of a British citizen, Alireza Akbari, accused of involvement in the assassination of a nuclear scientist. Now, according to reports, the Chinese Navy has carried out a sequence of confrontational drills in the South China Sea at the same time as the United States Aircraft Carrier Group launched maritime strike trains to combat-oriented confrontational exercises in the South China Sea. The Communist Party reported on Sunday, citing a statement from the People's Liberation Army, PLA. During the maneuvers, it said, the carrier group also practiced attack and defense on the surface, in the air and underwater, it added. The report came as the U.S. Navy said its Nimitz carrier strike group was also carrying out drills in the South China Sea as part of its established military outpost on artificial islands it has built there. Taiwan, Vietnam, Malaysia, Brunei and the Philippines also have claims to the area in what it calls freedom of navigation exercise. Aircraft carrier, a guided missile cruiser and 3 guided missile destroyers conducted maritime strike training as well as and have recommenced searching for 4 people still missing after the Himalayan nation's deadliest plane crashed in 30 years as the Himalayan nation observes a day of mourning. Rescuers recovered 68 bodies out of the 72 in clear weather. The plane on the scheduled 27-minute flight from Kathmandu to Pokhara, gateway to the scenic Annapurna mountain range, was carrying 57 Nepalese, 5 Indians, 4 Russians, 2 South Koreans and 1 person each from Argentina, Ireland, Australia and France. Pokhara police official Ajay had been sent to a hospital, he said. Authorities said bodies will be handed over to families after identification and examination. At least 1 witness reported hearing cries for help from within the ferry wreck, said a report. Local resident Bishnu Tiwari, who rushed to the crash site near rescuers, were also searching for the black boxes, a cockpit voice recorder and flight data recorder as they looked for survivors. Recently clear what caused the accident, the authorities said. Pokhara's new international airport began operations only 2 weeks ago. Prime Minister Pushpa Kamal Dahar rushed to the airport after the crash in the future. There are more stories. Belarus, Russia to start purely defensive air force. The drills are taking place as concerns grow that Moscow is pushing Minsk to join the war in Ukraine. The exercise is purely defensive in nature, said Mavel report from the Belarusian Defense Ministries on Sunday. The exercises, which will continue until February 1st, will involve training for aerial reconnaissance, deflecting airstrikes, air cover of important objects, and combined with a flurry of military activity in the country, is an echo of developments just before Russia's February 24th invasion of Ukraine, when Moscow used the country as a springboard to launch the attack. The latest build on Ukraine. Ukraine has continuously warned of possible attacks from Belarus, and President Volodymyr Zelensky said last week that the country must be ready under Lukashenko to take a more active role in the conflict in Ukraine. Minsk has said it will not enter the war. Since the beginning of the war, Belarus has conducted numerous military trainings in its own or jointly with Russia. Together with Moscow, Minsk has ordered a series of fighters, helicopters and military transport planes coming to the country since the start of the year, 8 fighters and 4 cargo planes on Sunday alone. Revise the marching slowly. The amendments to the public order bill to be tabled on Monday will broaden the legal definition of serious disruption, giving police greater flexibility and absolute clarity over when they can intervene in a protest. Police have already been given additional powers to stop protesters from more until motorway that is the busiest road in the country and close down parts of the capital. Under the proposed changes, police in the UK will be able to sequence of protests rather than handling them individually. The public order bill is now in the final freedoms of protesters if they said on Twitter that the proposed legislation was an attack on people, clarifying the complex legal situation facing the police. Protests about its effects on civil liberties. On Sunday, Italian energy group Eni Thorua Petroleum Company SA partners to begin production as soon as possible. Chevron was encouraged and excited by the success of this first exploration well, which encountered high-quality reservoirs. Clay Neff, president of Chevron International, intends to completely replace gas imports from Russia by discovery is located in the Nargis-1 exploration well and can be developed, leveraging the proximity to Eni's giant Zohr field in the Eastern Mediterranean. In 2015, though, it has also begun importing gas from East Democratic Republic, wounded on Sunday in a bomb attack on a church in Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo, DRC, claimed by Islamic State jihadists. Congolese military spokesman Anthony Mulisoda with Uganda. The explosion killed at least 10 people and wounded 39, he added, revising up an initial death toll of 5. Both people had been killed in the blast, and 20 forces, ADF, and 20 armed groups in Eastern DRC, many of them the legacy of regional wars that spread at the turn of the century in the vast impoverished nation. It has been accused of slaughtering thousands of Congolese civilians and carrying out bomb attack group on Sunday intelligence group. Army spokesperson Maulushai said to stay in Nigeria, Irabo declares. The military has reassured Nigerians of its support for constitutional democracy in the country. Chief of the country. He also assured that the armed forces will work solidly 23. That is an assurance, and then of course for the National Arcade Abuja to mark the grand finale of the 2023 Armed Forces Remembrance Day celebrations. The ceremony was held by the Nigerian Armed Forces to honor the fallen heroes who paid the supreme at the feet of the unknown soldier alongside his counterpart, the Minister of the Federal Capital Territory, Mohammed Bello. Among others who joined the wreath-laying ceremony were Vice President Yemi Osinbajo, Chief of Defense Staff General Lucky Irabo, and the Inspector General of Police IGP Usman Baba Alkali. Some went to the Catholic priest's official residence. The others stayed in the town, shooting to ward away any form of interference. He stated that when the bandits couldn't, the divisional police officer was said to have been reached but couldn't get Archie until he died. And finally, on business, Emefiele, who has been accused of funding fronted with December 2022, but Buhari returned his DSS, had applied to a court for permission to arrest and keep him for a prolonged period. A very well-connected government source said, according to reports at the weekend, I quote, "I believe there is a deal that will allow the governor to return this week without arrest, but he will be presented with evidence of the allegations against him, and thereafter it is a soft landing may now be presented to the once powerful governor of the APS in economic crimes of national detaining or questioning." It was for restraint. China says nearly 60,000 people have died of COVID since early December. Confrontational drills and Nepal plane crash. Black boxes found as nation mourns deadly. Can the soul be strengthened, ambition inspired, and success achieved? Thanks for watching. Have a lovely day and a fruitful week ahead.